Well, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got Paul Baker, who's known as the Train Man from Coffs Harbour. Thanks for coming up, Paul.
It's a pleasure. I mean, I built it, so I might as well pull it apart.
Yeah, well, today, you know, a lot of people have said, you know, we hope you build another layout, and we are going to build another layout with Paul's help. And Paul and I have been discussing what the new layout's going to look like. We haven't really come to an exact plan as yet, but we're working on that. But it's going to be fantastic. But today's process, obviously, Paul being a professional layout constructor of note in New South Wales, he's going to show us how we're going to pull this layout to pieces with the least amount of damage. So come along for the ride with us while we pull the Kingsview Model Railway to pieces. So how are we going to attack it, Paul?
Well, I suppose we should have attacked it when we built it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, who knew I was going to move?
That's
I
right.
didn't know I was going to move.
No.
So
So, in hindsight, we semi-modularised it when we built it,
yes, that's right.
but we didn't join the modules together.
No.
We just built the frame and then we...
That's right. And of course, we're talking about the second part. The first part, of course, is the old Davidstown
The old
layout.
Davidstown layout,
Right.
which was a resurrection.
A resurrection, and of course it really is in two pieces, and with a little bit of work we'll be able to get that, I think, to pieces fairly easily. But obviously we've got to pull this apart, and you've got a special trailer that you've bought for the process.
Yes, for the process, yeah.
So yeah, and it's got about 3.2 or 3.4, 3.5 metres length, and we've got about 1500 wide. So I think our preliminary measurements, I think we're talking about getting this into 5 pieces at this stage.
Yeah.
So
I think the biggest thing that we've got to look at is to cut the layout in places where we're not going to disturb the points.
yes,
One of the things I have discovered in dismantling layouts is instead of chopping the track on the join where you're going to cut it, go about 6 inches either side, take that whole piece of track out.
yes.
And it makes it so much easier. You don't end up with bent bits of track, and you can realign it much easier.
It also allows you to do that continuation of the scenery too, because
That's right.
look, any layout when you pull it apart, it's going to be very hard to get the alignment exactly where it was. And you might be up by even a millimetre and trying to line tracks up. And of course, that's the problem with exhibition layouts.
Yeah, well, you might remember I bought Wallerawang.
Yes, that's right.
And I reconfigured Wallerawang.
Right.
I held on to that for about 2 or 3 years, and then it got a chap in Sydney by the name of Craig Wopang come to my place, saw it and loved it, and he said, would I sell it to him? And he's since moved on, so I had to pull it apart again. And it's now in storage at Vineyard because they want to rebuild it out at Wallerawang Station in a cafe.
Oh, okay, that'll be
so
fantastic.
it'll get reused for the 4th time.
Right.
So all layouts are reusable.
Yeah.
We used to call this layout Davidstown because Dorrigo Dave,
Right.
he used to live at Dorrigo, and I moved it from Dorrigo down to Coffs Harbour for him. And then when he retired to Canberra, I pulled it apart again and was going to use it as my own layout. And you happened along.
Yes. Well, we kept it as Davidstown, and of course we had Rocky Point and Rocky Point Station over there. So, look, a lot of people have loved this layout. When you look at back, we've done 140 odd videos featuring this layout. It's very popular. People all around the world love this layout, and they're going to get to see it again.
They're going to get to see it again. So it'll live on down at our new home at Anna Bay.
Yep. So it's going to be great.
And so much so that when you said you were moving, I was moving at the same time. Well, I'm still in the process of moving. I actually donated my layout, my big industrial layout, to the Coffs Harbour Model Group as a display layout and training layout for them. And I'm going to put this in my new shed.
Well, fantastic. It's great to see that the layout's going to...
Because I loved it so much when I built it.
Yeah, and look, we again thank you for all the work you put into it at the start, and obviously we've scenicked it and run it, and we've run hundreds of trains on it over the 5 years or 5.5 years. But obviously we're going to show everybody now how we're going to pull this apart and how the process is.
Big hammer and a hacksaw. Yeah,
that's it. So stay tuned. So job number 1 is obviously to photograph everything, Paul, so that you know where everything's got to go once it's reassembled, because in your case, it might be a couple of months before this gets put back together. So,
Well, the big thing I've got to do when I get to the new home, the shed's already built, but the floor's not done. So I've got to get one of those new epoxy floors put down to stop the dust. Because the one thing people don't realise, they build model railways in garages, and the concrete floor creates so much dust, and the next thing they know, the buildings are covered in like a white dust, and the track's always dirty, and they wear out the wheels on their logos, and it's just it's monumental, some of the damage that the concrete can. Even if they just use a Vista concrete sealer, it makes a big difference, which is what we did at the clubhouse down at Coffs Harbour. We've got a join there, so we're going to cut it there. So we'll come back about here and cut this here and take that piece of track out.
it's a bit of water will always lift up the track in a couple of minutes because it's only glued down with 50% PVA, Paul. So if you remember, it'll.
Yeah.
Yeah, the scenery is good. If you use glue with a different ratio, you'll never get it up.
Yeah. And the other thing I do is I don't care if I destroy that bit of track, because I'll pull it up by the track and leave the sleepers behind to start with. That way I can pull it out of the join without destroying the other piece of track.
I've changed my mind, Paul.
Have you? I got a bit of spackle and some aqua here. We'll fix it. And that should be it. Part one.
Part one done.
Yep. Now all I've got to do is fall down as I get off.
So Paul, we're now moving on to stage two, but obviously we've got to think about wiring when we pull a layout like this to pieces.
Yeah, that was underneath here was a bit of a problem because wires came from the control panel there all the way over to the turntable. Just flick all those points there and these points here. So obviously I had to get underneath and label and make sure that they were connectable again. So we've labelled those and put them in the trailer, and now we move on to this one. And we're very fortunate that we've been able to cut it without doing much damage to the points, and we've cut these short so that we don't end up with any fractured ends.
And you're going to make some modification to this when you reassemble it along this edge.
What I'm going to do is basically here, I'm going to put a board across there so that it becomes anything we've cut, it'll become a module. So then we'll be able to bolt the two sections together. So next time, if there's a next time we move it, it'll just be a matter of undoing these and lifting it off, and I'll just, where it comes to here, I'll put a little bit of PC board on here and solder the tracks down to that, and that make it so that you don't have to worry about cutting the track.
This looks a bit awkward, but it's the only way to get to the junction, to cut underneath the scenery. Well, there we are, Paul, stage 3 this morning. ready to start cutting through the Bythungra yard. Found the best spot to cut through with the most minimal amount of damage, and only got a couple of wires underneath to deal with, which is the main bus line that goes around the layout.
And the nice part about here is we're not disturbing the points either. So we've got a good shot at
being able to realign them later on.
Yeah, we don't.
Well, there you have it. That's the first stage of the Kingsview Model Railway being dismantled, and it's taken us a fair part of the day and most of the night to get those first three pieces. You can see here behind, we've made a clean cut through here. So we've got rid of basically half of the Bythungra South Yard and all of the Kingsholm Station. So it's all packed up in the truck. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's been pretty hard, watching hard work, hundreds of hours being unceremoniously cut up with the saw, but we've done it in the best way we can. We've maintained as much as we can, and the layout will go to a new home with Paul, and you'll see it resurrected at some time in the future. So that's the end of part one, and stay tuned in the next couple of weeks and you'll see part two with the finalisation of the dismantling of the Kingsview Model Railway. So again, thanks for subscribing, thanks for viewing, and we're really looking forward to starting work on the next layout. So bye for now.